Okay. So for you as a jet setter, so how many countries have you been to?
36 so far.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been a lucky
Like,
guy.
yeah. Like, can you mention some?
Oh, well, I can't. I won't mention. Well, I could mention all of them, but I think it might take
Your
too much time.
favorite
But
countries?
I'll just. Oh, I'll give you a top five.
Yeah. Okay.
My okay, number five will be Sri Lanka because I mean, I've lived there for more than a year and a half, and I've made a habit of going there annually. Um, over the last 4 years because I love surfing there and it's got a lovely lifestyle. There's a nice community of a mixture of internationals and local people. The wildlife is amazing. Food is awesome. Really, really amazing culture to enjoy. And it's got a lot of variety for a small country. So that's number five. Number four would be probably France, I think,
Hmm.
which people might be surprised about because it's so easily accessible from the
Yes.
UK. But
Yes.
I never take that for granted because it's a country that's got so much to offer with history and like historical buildings as well as nice scenery and lovely countryside, nice coastlines, fantastic Alps when you go to the mountains. And I love listening to the French language. I think personally for me, it's my favorite language to listen to. And the food is also nice as well. Number
Really?
three would be Portugal. Yes, yes, it is. I mean, I strongly recommend France and all over the country, more or less. Yeah, number three would be Portugal because that is the part of Europe I would like to live in the most because of the
Wow.
lifestyle and again, surfing's a big draw there, and also that's the country that's got a lot of cool historical buildings as well. Fantastic laid back kind of lifestyle, at least in my experience. And I love the climate there as well. I think it's probably my most ideal climate I've come across because when it's warm, it's mostly a dry heat, and that makes a big difference, I think. Number
Hmm.
two would be Canada, because I
Wow.
did a working holiday visa there, and the scenery just completely blew me away, as well as again, I know I'm repeating myself with laid back lifestyle, but I really do enjoy that mellow kind of thing. And the wildlife is insane. You just get to see so many incredible animals casually. Sometimes you don't even need to go and look for them; they just show up in like a small town that you're in. Um, number one for me will be New Zealand. New
Oh.
Zealand. I mean, part of the reason is, and you may laugh at this, but I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan, so I think that it was natural for me to like that country the most. And again, I like it for very similar reasons to Canada because of the scenery and well, I mentioned laid back lifestyle. I mean, that actually is beyond laid back. It's more of a horizontal lifestyle. And you just meet so many outdoors enthusiasts while you're over there. And so I think that creates an overall great vibe.
Hmm.
Um, and like any outdoors activity you're looking to do, it's got it covered with at least a 9 out of 10, I think, but most of them are 10 out of 10, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I would pick that as number one, I would say.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so let's go back when you decided to travel for the first time. How this notion came to you, and what were your goals?
Um, Well, it's funny you mentioned goals. The fact is that when I was in my late teens and early 20s, I didn't really have any goals at that point, if I'm honest. I just wanted to go out partying every weekend with my friends, which is fine. I mean, I had a good time, but something was missing. And
Uh-huh.
then I just had an idea pop into my mind that I'd like to go to Australia for 1 year.
Hmm.
It wasn't so much that I was like in a traveling mindset at that stage. It's just because I just wanted something different. I wanted to change up my lifestyle. So instead of every week being exactly the same as one another, as I felt it was, I just felt I needed some kind of adventure.
Hmm.
And yes, in the end, I decided to do it. I mean, it took a bit of like because I used to be a shy kind of guy. It took a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? I had to push myself really hard to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully I didn't pull out, because I think a lot of people, when they have an idea to do that, they pull out at the last minute, unfortunately. But I thought I had to do it, because if I didn't, I would probably regret it.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up going to Australia, and I did my full year, and the rest after that is history, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. For some people, they will wonder that how do you manage your life that you are always
Yeah.
in different countries.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you manage your
Oh,
life?
so it comes down to adaptability, I think, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you adjust to every country that you're in. I think it does a lot of good to at least do a bit of research before you
Mm-hmm.
go to each country that you're looking to visit.
Mm-hmm.
But however, simultaneously, I think you should not be fixed on an idea that you have in your mind, because more often than not, it doesn't quite go 100% according to plan. And I don't mean that in a bad way. In fact, I actually mean it in the opposite, because like you might do your research into what are the guidebooks is recommended best places to see in each country. But I think if you go by local people's recommendations, or people who either live there or who have been there for a while already before you arrive, they tell you about places that are not mentioned on guidebooks and websites, and more often than not, they actually end up being better to visit, at least in my experience. And
Mm-hmm.
the other thing as well is that you have to think about budget. So, like some countries are cheaper than others, some are more expensive than others.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you just need to have like a good understanding on getting a balance right between things that you would like to do or really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, if it's an activity or something that I know I would definitely want to try, I go for it. If it's
Mm-hmm.
something I'm a little bit 50-50 about, then sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, I think, in that way that you can conserve your budget a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go all guns blazing and try out everything, there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. But I think if you want to keep traveling frequently, then that can maybe damage the chances of that, because you might run out of money a lot quicker, or you might bring your bank balance down much lower than you intended. And then, of course, it takes a while to build it all back up again if you want to do it again. Then, at least
So
that's my opinion.
yeah. When it comes to budget, so do you work in those countries or just like for pleasure?
Uh, I mean, I've lived and worked in Australia, as I mentioned, because that was a work visa. Same thing in Canada, because that was also a work visa. I've also lived and worked in Norway.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need a visa there. Well, at the time anyway, before Brexit happened, but we won't talk about
Yeah.
that. So, and of course, you need it in those countries I mentioned, because they tend to be like a little bit more expensive compared to others,
Mm-hmm.
particularly Norway. Norway's very expensive, but the salaries are excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also, I lived and worked in Sri Lanka. But having said that, with Sri Lanka, it's really cheap. So after the
Mm-hmm.
money that I saved in Norway before going out there, I didn't need to work for a while. But then when I knew that I wasn't going back to Norway anytime soon because of the pandemic, those are the only countries where I've actually, well, actually, no, I take that back. I also lived and worked in Cornwall in southwest of England as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, apart from that, all of the other countries I visited, I've gone there as like for an adventure or just a traveling trip, really.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that pretty much sums it up. So it depends. It depends on where you're going and what your intentions are. But I mean, normally, if you go traveling to, say, Southeast Asia or Southern Asia or Latin America, I think. Well, I mean, I probably. Well, I mean, most of the time you don't really end up working there. But it depends who you are, because some people teach
Yeah.
English in those countries in classrooms, or they might have their own businesses
Mm-hmm.
in Asian countries or Latin American countries as well.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it just depends on what your purpose is with each country you're visiting, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So